So, good morning, everybody. Yes, it is Saturday morning once again. Do you know what I think? I think it's quite scary. It doesn't seem 2 minutes since we were doing our Saturday morning show, does it? Does it seem like 2 minutes ago to you, or does it seem like a whole week away? Anyway, whatever. I've had a really good week this week because I was speaking yesterday to a fabulous man who is 90 years old. 90 years old, was a Jesuit priest for over 40 years. And let's see what else is there about him. He's a theologian, a professor, a teacher. And he, having read something that was very disturbing to him, he was now questioning his faith at 90 years old. So you see, all of you out there have got your doubts and your wonders, and is it or isn't it, and so on and so forth. For a one-time Jesuit priest, a theologian, someone who spent his entire life being educated, educating himself, learning, being involved with the church, with God, he is still questioning because of one man's comments in a book. One man's comments had him thinking, am I wrong? Am I wrong? And we had the most phenomenal conversation yesterday. And I think he's sort of back on track. When I say back on track, I think just listening to me, just listening to my experiences and me telling him my beliefs and my feelings on the subject, I think he understood that he hadn't lost his faith. He'd just simply misplaced it. He'd allowed someone else, someone he didn't even know, some supposed expert, he'd allowed that expert to cast doubts. And through our lives, we always cast doubts, don't we? We cast doubts on all kinds of things. Does our husband love us? Does our wife love us? Are we doing a good job at work? We have a trillion doubts about a trillion things. So it was interesting to see. I've always said, you know, my faith has been tested and tested and tested over and over again. I've doubted myself a trillion times. I've doubted some of the stories. I've doubted some of the experiences that I've had. I've had to question: did that really happen? Was that my imagination? Have I made more of it than there was in fact about the situation? I've questioned and questioned over the years, but strangely, and you may find this strange or not, you know, I was with my church since I was 2 years old. My mother used to send us off to Sunday school because it was the only time she could take a break and watch the Sunday afternoon movie, because in those days, when I was so long ago, when I was only 2 years old, there was only, I think, one TV channel, and there was one movie which was on a Sunday afternoon. Can you imagine only having one movie? And now look at the choices that we have. But she used to send us off, you know, didn't matter where, because we certainly didn't talk about God in our house. We didn't talk about religion in our house. There was never a question of our parents encouraging or even discouraging the idea that there might be a higher power. It just was simply something that was not even on the radar. However, church was the only place that would take young children for Sunday school in the afternoons when the movie was on. And that was the important thing. And not that I blame her, because, you know, we were perhaps a handful. But my church became my family, and my church were the ones who showed me the way. And my relationship with Christ became so important to me. And I've never, ever doubted the existence of God. I've never doubted the existence of a man by the name of Jesus Christ who came to this earth to be a healer. I've never doubted, I've doubted some of the Bible stories, and, you know, I've had lots of doubts about different things. but I've never had a doubt that there is that higher power. You can call it God or dog, because God is only dog spelled backwards after all. You can call it it, she, that, they, call it whatever you like. A higher power it is, and I've never doubted its existence. Now, our story time today is maybe a little different than you might expect. But before we begin our story, let's first of all say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who, as most of you know, stands always by my side, and he will be here to suggest, to correct if I need correction on something, to help to answer your questions after the story is done. And so he's always by my side. And I would also like to say good morning to Chris, who seems to be here every Saturday morning helping me with story time. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, everyone.
So as all good stories must begin, you know that I advocate story time with a once upon a time, and we always have to say the end at the end. So let me begin with my story, and this story is it's an odd story. So once upon a time, many years ago, many years ago, when first Grey Eagle came into my life, and we'd been working together for perhaps 2 or 3 years, I had an experience. He literally placed me right in the middle of this experience, because it was a way of, again, my learning, my growing, and as a spiritual medium, Grey Eagle feels that I need to pretty much experience as much as I possibly can of what goes on within the spirit world, as much as I possibly can about communication. And so consequently, over the years, he has placed me in certain situations where I learn and I grow. And most of those situations have been wonderful. They may not have started out to be wonderful, but they've ended up being absolutely wonderful. But I had an experience which taught me about the dark side. The dark side of life. Some of you may call the dark side the devil. Some of you may call the dark side Satan, just as we call God, dog, he, she, it, whatever. Doesn't matter what you call it. It is that dark side of our universal existence. And I know that there are so many of you out there who you don't want to know. So this, perhaps you should click off now then. I remember in one of my books called A Matter of Life and Death, I remember having had an experience with a serial killer, and not a good story, but yet a fabulous and a wonderful and inspiring ending to the story, I might say. But I had a lady who wrote to me who was so disappointed in me. She said, Rosemary, I read your books because they give me hope, they give me enlightenment, they give me joy. This gave me terrors. And although I felt very sad that she should feel that way, I do feel that it is important for those of us who know better or who know more to really to talk about these things and to talk about our experiences. I don't want to lead you astray, and honestly, we have to get real, don't we? We have to keep our feet on the ground, and we have to say, look, here is the deal. This world of ours is wonderful. Our angels are wonderful. We know of their existence. We have so many joyous and wonderful, wonderful things that happen to us. But let's be real. Let's keep our feet on the ground. This earth of ours is also full of darkness. It's full of violence. It's full of, you might use the word evil, but certainly evil deeds and evil doings. And there are people out there who are themselves what Grey Eagle has taught me we call dark souls. And unfortunately, and close your ears now if you don't want to hear this, but unfortunately, those dark souls do exist. Now, Let me be clear, we're not talking about this so I can scare the pants off you. We're not talking about this to make you afraid. We're talking about this because forewarned, after all, is forearmed. And if we have only part of the information, we think that everything is joyful and rosy and wonderful. If I said to my 7-year-old grandson, go out there, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, God will protect you, God will look after you, and your angels are there, and so on and so forth, how is he going to know that he needs to also be on his guard for those who are not so wonderful, not so glorious, not so beautiful? I have to teach him. We teach our children from an early age, don't we, in school? Don't talk to a stranger. Strangers are not good to talk to. So we're teaching our children from a very early age that life is not all sunshine, roses, beautiful. There are those dark forces, there are those dark souls. And those dark souls come to this earth for the same reason that we of the light do. They come to learn, they come to grow, they come to explore. So a long time ago, as I was saying to you, Gregor put me in a situation where I had to face head on an evil entity. And I can tell you, it was not a pleasant experience. And I was so distressed throughout this and so distraught about it. And I was calling out to Gregor, help me, save me, do something, stop this from happening. I'm not going to go into all of the details of that experience, but I could not figure out at the time why he wasn't helping me. Come on, Gregor, you're there for me. You're by my side, even as I say this. He puts his hand on my shoulder to you know, I don't need reassurance. I know that he's there, but he's remembering this with me. And this is part of my learning and my growth, because what he was basically saying to me is, you have the power within your own self to deal with this. You can do it. You can deal with this. We who are of the light, you and I, those of us who are listening, we're of the light. We have the power to combat the dark side. We have the power to combat those dark souls. But if we're refusing or burying our head in the sand and we refuse to see that they exist, then how can we protect ourselves? If we don't warn our children that there are bad people out there, if we don't warn our children, don't talk to strangers, how can we protect them? How can they be aware? And how, when a stranger does come up to them and talk to them, how do they know to run or to scream or to kick or to shout? So, okay, so we know that there are dark forces out there. And in the story Matter of Life and Death, I do tell the story of my own personal experience with a serial killer. This is a true story. It happened in Florida. And I'm not going to tell you that story. You can read it in the book. I might tell it another story time, maybe in a while from now. But it is a true story about a serial killer. And he is, I think, even at this moment in time, he is the top of the FBI serial killer list. In other words, he's the worst known serial killer so far that we have ever experienced, certainly in America. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but certainly in America, and he's high on that list. If you want to know more about that, you can easily go to my book, for instance. Go to Matter of Life and Death. So anyway, all right. So we know that there are dark souls, and we know of their existence, but we also know that if we are of the light, and we have our faith and our trust, and we put our faith and trust in God, that we will be safe. All right, so having said all of that, I was in Florida, and a friend of mine was at the time, she worked in the prison, not in the offices, but actually working with the prisoners, which was tough because this is a high security prison in Florida. She was talking to her boss, who was the warden or I'm not sure quite what, anyway, the head of the prison, he was the warden, he was the one who was the top of the tree. And she was talking to him about me, and he said, gosh, I wonder if she would come into the prison one time and tell us if she sees or feels anything, because a lot of the people who worked in the prison guards and so on, a lot of people felt that the prison was perhaps haunted, as you might believe it was. So my friend came to me and said, you've been invited to the prison, do you want to go? And of course I said, yes, yeah, of course I do. I wanted to have that experience. So I went in and I met the warden. He was a fabulous guy, lovely guy, and I met him in his office, and within seconds of sitting down in the office, I had all sorts of feelings, senses, so on and so forth, which actually had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with his next in command, who was actually not in the office at the time. But I don't remember some of the messages, but they were good. They were nice messages from this guy's family. And apparently this guy was suffering with, if I recall properly, some sort of back injury or what have you. So we were talking about that. And as I was talking to the warden, he was sort of, his eyes were getting wider and wider, bigger and bigger, probably thinking, how does she know these things? He was expecting me to focus on the prisoners. He was expecting me to focus on the things that happened in the prison, and here I was focusing on him and his deputy. Anyway, so we get the niceties over, and at some point he says to me, Rosemary, would you like a tour? And of course, wouldn't you want a tour? as long as the prisoners are on that side of the bars and I'm on this side of the bars, of course I would like a tour. And the intention was not for me to talk to the prisoners at all, but the intention was for me to see, to feel, to sense, and to be aware, and also to see if there were any souls, dark or light, about the place. So he began taking me through this tour. And at one point, we went into the facilities where there were the bathrooms and showers and so on and so forth. And I'm sort of, obviously I'm walking along, I'm listening, I'm paying attention, and, you know, tuning in, and Gregel is with me, and I'm trying to see, you know, get the feel of the place, because everything, you've heard me say before, everything is energy. Everything is about energy. What kind of energy was there in here? It's hard, you know, when you go into a place like that and you know that it's a high security prison and you know that there are people in there who have done awful and terrible things. It's hard to not let your imagination run away with you. You want to sort of, you want it to be real. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you might imagine bad stuff going on. So I was very conscious, very aware, and of course, as you all know, I'm a very skeptical person. So we were walking through, and we were in the washrooms and the shower facilities and so on and so forth. And he's taking me through, and he's not saying anything to me. And my friend who also works there, she was with us too. And we're just walking around, the three of us. Nobody's saying anything. And suddenly I come to a full stop at one of these shower stalls. And let me tell you that the energy was almost as if a ball of energy came right at me, hit me in the stomach. Not for the first time by any means, but it stopped me in my tracks. And then I had a very, very vivid vision of a man in the shower stalls slicing himself to ribbons, blood everywhere. And it was confirmed by the warden once I told him what I saw, what I felt. It was confirmed that, in fact, a few weeks prior, one of the prisoners had committed suicide in this particular shower stall in a very violent way. We continue on. And the warden is now, as I'm talking and I'm making different comments as we're going into different parts of the prison, some parts of the prison were really nice, positive, very positive. very powerful positive energy, and some parts of the prison were not so powerful, not so positive. And as I'm going through, I'm making different comments about different things and telling him what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, what I'm aware of. And the more I do this, the more he's looking at me as if I've got two heads, because obviously he doesn't know how I know these things. But again, I'm going to say to you all, everything is about energy, and we leave our stamp on the places that we go to. We leave our stamp on the homes that we live in. It's almost as if our energy seeps into the walls of our homes and has an effect on the feel of the home. And some, you know, when if you're buying a house, sometimes you go into a house and it feels fabulous, and other times not so good. So I was connecting not only with the energy, but I was also connecting with Grey Eagle as well. So we're walking up sort of one of the fairly narrow corridors, and as we're walking along, the warden says nothing to me. He's just watching me, listening, saying yes or no as I'm talking to him about different things. And we come to one going up this corridor, and the corridor splits into two. And one part of the corridor goes sort of up a slope, slightly up a slope, at which point there are 3 or 4 doors, which are obviously prison cells, and they're at the top of this one slope. And then the other part of the corridor just goes off into another part of the prison. Again, the warden says nothing to me, because he, you know, obviously I think he's beyond testing me now, but at the same time, he wants to know if I do feel, or if I do sense, or if I do see, or what is going on with the prison. And part of him wants to know these things because he wants to know if there's a lot of negativity, for instance, in a certain part of the prison. He wants to know because he wants to be able to deal with it, to make it better, so on and so forth. So we now come to this V in the road, and at which point I stop again, dead in my tracks, because what is up ahead of me and up this slope ahead of me, leading towards the 3 or 4 doors that are at the top there, it's not a place I want to be. It's not a place I want to go. And the feeling and the energy of dread on my part, if you like, the feeling and the energy of something that is, if I say pure evil, I don't think I would be exaggerating. The feeling that was up ahead, leading to one particular door, was so powerful, it was almost as if it was a living, breathing energy. Now, you must understand that I felt this because I was open. I had, all the way through here, I had, my level of consciousness was raised to a point, to a level where I'm feeling, sensing. Most of you wouldn't feel it. Most of you would not be affected by it. Some of you might. But because I was so highly, highly tuned, my level of sensitivity was up, way up here. I had raised my level of sensitivity to the point where I was going to feel, I was going to sense, I was going to be aware of whatever there was that was in this place, in this building. So I took a breath, because what I was feeling here, what I was sensing here, was so abominable. And at some point I was having difficulty breathing, so I used all of my techniques. I used my chakra points, I used my solar plexus, I was breathing, I was creating good energy, powerful energy, energy that protected me. And so I looked at the warden and at my friend, and I said, if you could just stay here, I would like to explore a little bit further. And remember, I had Grey Eagle by my side. So I began very slowly to walk up the slope, and it was quite a long slope. began to slowly walk up the slope. I got not quite halfway up the slope where I felt that I was completely doubled over and really needing to throw up and really feeling that terrible, 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 terrible energy. And it seemed to emanate from just one of those doors. And I took a breath. I took another couple steps, and I couldn't go any further because it was just so overpowering that I had to come back and I had to back off. And we took a break. We went and had a glass of water, and the warden proceeded to tell me that there was a very evil prisoner who was actually behind that one particular door at that moment that I was heading up the slope, that he was on complete lockdown, and that he was there until his trial, but that he had murdered, viciously murdered so many people. So what I was feeling, what I was sensing was that darkness that was within him. So we carried on the tour, and sensibly the warden then took me to places that were so much better, so much brighter, so much lighter. But that energy, or that feeling, that knowledge was still with me. But fortunately or otherwise, I had experienced it before, and I knew exactly what I needed to do to cleanse my energy, to bring myself back to me, and to let go those dark forces that are in this world minimally compared to how many souls of light and joy and love there are a minimal amount of such a low percentage of dark souls, but they do exist. So that got me thinking, how can I teach others if they come across this, if they experience this, if they even have part of this experience? What do you do if you are with someone who is a dark soul? What do you do with someone who you meet, who you feel is, let's say, not quite right? You have that knowledge that something's not quite right here. And what you do, and what you immediately do, which is what I immediately do, I know that I have grey eagle. I know that you all don't have a grey eagle. I know this, but we have God and we have our angels. And what we do as fervently and as powerfully as we can, we call our angels to us. We surround ourselves in light, and we ask God, please protect us from the dark that surrounds us. Please protect us from the dark that is of this earth. Please show us the light and allow us to always be in the light. I mentioned earlier that I tell a story in my book, A Matter of Life and Death. I tell the story of the serial killer. Now, it's not a great story, just like this story I'm telling you today. It's not a great story. Nobody really wants to be reminded of the darkness that is on this earth with us. But at the same time, being reminded means that we're on guard, that we can protect ourselves, which we should always do. The end of the story that I tell in A Matter of Life and Death is the most astounding and the most beautiful ending, because angels come. And if you can try and remember, all of you out there who are experiencing even the most mild darkness, which might be depression, or it might be that you are feeling lost or lonely or alone, our angels, your angels, are always with you, and they will protect you. All you have to do is let them in. Be aware that they are with you. Ask for their help. Ask for their guidance. And whatever it is that you want, that you feel can make your life a little bit better, ask for that too. A very, very old man, a really old man. I remember meeting years ago. He'd been a healer for like 50 some years, almost 60 years. And he was a fabulous man and a wonderful man. And he gave me healing and we talked about healing. And he said to me at one point, you know, Rosemary, he said, do you believe in miracles? And I said, well, I do. I believe that miracles happen to us every day, not necessarily big giant ones, but I believe in the big giant miracles. And I also believe in the small miracles. And he said, well, you know, as a healer, I've learned, he said, there's nothing wrong with asking for a miracle. You might get it or you might not get it, but always feel free to ask for one. So if you out there listening to this story, you want a miracle, you need a miracle, or you think you need a miracle, ask. Just ask for it. You may get it or you may not, but there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't ask for it and hope that it comes, because miracles come to us in many different forms. So bring the light into your lives. When I left the prison that day, yes, of course, I had lots of things to contemplate. But did I take the dark energy with me? No, of course not, because I don't need that. My own energy is so filled with light and so filled with love and so filled with joy. There's no room. That dark energy has no place to go. It just disappears. It dissipates. I think I said a few weeks ago, I'm not sure if it was on this show or another show, but I'm going to give you this analogy so you'll understand there is nothing to fear. You have two rooms side by side, and the only connection is the door in the middle. One room is filled with dark. It's just a dark room. The other is filled with light, filled with the brightest and the most beautiful light you ever saw. Open that door. What happens? Does the darkness envelop the light, or does the light spill into that room and fill that room with light, erasing the dark? And we all know what would happen. You open the door, light wins out every time. So please remember that. I just felt this is an interesting story. You might be interested in hearing this. But you also might be interested. It's always good for us to be reminded, yes, there are dark forces. Yes, there are evil people out there. Yes, there are cruel people out there. But we can only do our best to fill our lives with beauty, with joy, and trust in our angels and trust in God. And that's what I do. Let me tell you something. If ever I need a little boost, or if ever I'm afraid for something, mostly for my daughter or my grandson, I call on God. It works every time, every single time. The end. Chris, what did you think to that story?
Well, I think much like you're saying, we can feel through your story the sense of dread you must have experienced, but we can also feel the hope and joy and love that we have to combat those things. So I think it's one of those stories, like you say, to help us be discerning and pragmatic as we go through life.
I just want to say I promise that next week's story is going to be so filled with love and light and joy and happiness.
Well, you'll be happy to know that you have so many friends on right now, all saying good morning. You know, your friends from Italy are on. Some have tried to use Google Translate, some still have not, but we hope that they will get to that. Many of them are believing you that there is darkness and there are questions coming.
Good. Let's go for it then, Chris. Over to you.
All right, 1 minute. All right, Salvatore from Naples.
Good morning.
Says, I would like to know, where do unborn babies go? I lost 4. I lost a child in the 7th month of pregnancy. Do they reincarnate? Are they close to us?
Well, first of all, let me say my heart goes out to you, my darling. I too have lost many babies. Uh, at least 3 before. I say at least 3 because a couple were not so certain, but nevertheless, I lost 3 certain for certain. I had 3 miscarriages prior to having Samantha, my daughter, and I lost another 2 after I had her. Actually, more, but it doesn't really matter. And here is the thing: when a soul is born to this earth, prior to its coming into the womb, each soul makes a choice and makes a decision to have that experience, to have an earth experience. Now, some souls, and I have this on the best authority, which is Grey Eagle, and it makes perfect sense to me. Some souls choose to come here simply to experience the womb. They come to experience the energy and the connection with the mother. They come to this earth to be in the womb and to see what it feels like to have that human feeling, that human connection. And they may stay in the womb and choose not to be born at all, not to even take that one small breath, but it is their choice. And so even though it is our loss and our pain, it is their choice to have this experience which teaches them something and brings them some kind of light and enlightenment. Then there are those souls who choose to be born to have the experience of the womb, to have the experience of taking that first breath, or maybe even to have the experience of taking that few days of this earth experience, but they then choose to only do that and not to continue with their life here, but to continue on wherever it is that they go. And they continue to go on, and they continue to grow, and they continue to have that life experience, but just simply not on this earth. So it is, even though it is our pain and our heartache, these souls who choose these brief moments, it is their choice to have that experience for whatever reasons, and I'm sure there are different reasons for different people, but those souls choose to have that experience, and are so very often. And I've spoken to many souls who have grown and stayed with their family, or stayed with the mother, or have come and gone checking on the mother or watching over the mother, and they have chosen to have those connections remaining, and it is their choice. It is simply their choice, and there is no intent to hurt, there is no intent to be cruel. It is simply their choice to have that experience, and they choose usually to have those experiences with someone like myself, like you, Salvatore. They choose to have those experiences with people who are strong enough to be able to handle those experiences. You've heard the expression, I'm sure, God never gives us anything that we can't endure, that we can't deal with, and I do believe that that's true. Chris, carry on.
Ivy is on.
Morning, Ivy.
Good morning, Rosemary. Just wanted to say thanks again for a life-changing consultation. I am trying to explain to my friend about the soul. Could you give us an explanation to what a soul is? Sending healing and love.
Well, thank you, Ivy. All right, so the full explanation for, I suppose, what a soul is, you'll find that full explanation in my book, Soul Signs, and it explains that there are certain pockets of energy within the universe, and each pocket of energy is able to create a certain type of soul, a certain energy within a soul. And so a soul is created by different types of energy. There are 5 main pockets of energy that those of us in our human cluster, we call this earth of ours a cluster. We are a cluster of souls. And so within this human cluster, there are 5 main distinctive soul groups. Earth, fire, air, water, and sulfur. And those 5 types of energy are all the basic elemental energies that this earth of ours has. So each pocket creates certain souls in certain of those different pockets of energy. And within each pocket of energy, there are 3 different soul types. In other words, the energy is used in 3 different ways to create 3 different soul types. So it's worth getting the book. Ivy, maybe you'd like to suggest that your friend buys the book and she can read all about that. It's not just a book about how souls are created, it's about the energy of each of us, and it's about the compatibility of energy. It explains why your father loves you more than he loves your sibling, or why he gets on better with someone else than he does with you. It explains relationships. It explains the angst between relationships, whether it's romantic, family, work relationship, any kind of relationship you can think of. The energy that we are created from, the energy that each soul is created from, is really, which other energies are compatible with yours. It explains it all in soul science. Also, if you can think that the soul, the best way I can explain it to you, so we can sort of, we're human, what do we know? So I'm going to put it in the simplest terms for all of you, because I prefer to think of it in the simplest terms myself. So if you can visualize that the soul, each soul is like a daffodil bulb. It is this small thing, very powerful thing, but it's this small, small thing. So visualize it as a daffodil bulb. And what we do is, this bulb, this soul of ours, comes to this earth. It buries its roots in the earth. In other words, what goes on within this earth of ours feeds our soul, good or bad, negative or positive. Our soul places roots, our bulb places its roots in the earth, and the earth feeds. And as it feeds, and as the bulb becomes bigger, stronger, and more nurtured, then it flowers. And that flower, that beautiful golden flower of the daffodil, that is the spirit, or the energy, which is our soul. So there is the soul, and then there is the spirit. Lots of people think that it's the same thing, but it actually isn't. The soul is one thing. It is nurtured. We need to nurture it. It is nurtured, it is taken care of, it is fed. And depending on, if you can imagine a flower bulb and you put it in the garden and you neglect it, it will actually grow, and it usually will flower. But imagine if you nurture it, imagine if you feed it, imagine if you put it in, put it in the right soil, in the right place for it to get the best of itself. And what happens is it flowers. And this energy, this beautiful energy that our soul has, that is our spirit. That is the energy of our soul, which shines out beautifully. And I'm saying this to you, I'm trying to describe it in just a few minutes for you, but read Soul Signs, because it explains it all, and you'll be amazed. You'll see, hold on a minute, that's why my husband and I didn't get on. Not because of anything I did wrong or anything he did wrong. We are just incompatible energy. Or, you can find your soulmate. You know exactly what you're looking for in a person because you're looking not at how beautiful the person is, how gorgeous the person is. You're looking at the energy of that person, and you can see if it's compatible with yours. And that's what we should be looking for. We should be looking for compatible energy. So, Ivy, tell your friend to read Soul Science because it will explain it all. Chris,
RT first has a couple of comments and then a question.
go ahead.
Um, so RT is on YouTube and saying, just to say thank you so much for all your help on this channel. A comment,
So nice. Thank you.
a comment while you were telling your story was, without dark, there is no light.
Yes, it's a balance, and I know it's so hard for most of us. We don't, look, for years and years and years and years, even when I began this work, I would say that we all have that little bit of God in us, and I firmly believed it. I wanted to believe it. Even the darkest of us, even the most evil of us, we all have that little spark of light within us. Okay, well, it turns out we don't. I want it to be true. I want us all to have that little bit of light. Of course, we don't want darkness in our lives. Of course, we don't want dark souls on our planet, but they are there. Read the newspapers every day. Listen to the news, and you'll see it every single day. So I think, knowing it and being prepared for it and know what to do about it is the sensible way to go. So thank you, my darling, for those comments. And there's a question coming, I do believe.
Yes, the question is, would you have a message for me from passed on loved ones? Furry 2. Thank you.
Oh, golly. Right now, I don't. Listening. Right now, I don't. But, I do say to people, when the show begins, if you could just ask your first question, don't keep putting questions out there. If we have time at the end, there'll be time for a second question. There's no reason why you can't ask this question again. I'm not saying I'll have a message then. I don't know, but we can try, or just keep trying next week and the week after, and sooner or later, I'm sure we'll get to it. Chris.
All right, Mark is on.
Hi, Mark.
He says, Rosemary, with Gray Eagle at your right side, mine at my right side, I had 3 longtime colleague friends over for a dinner party last evening. Renee shared she miscarried her child a year or so ago. Was this heaven's child of hers a boy or girl?
With no, I have no reason to say it, and with nothing else to go on, I'm very loath to say, Mark, but I'm hearing Gregor say it's a boy, so I'm going to go with that. But you shouldn't believe it just because I said it, because don't believe someone like me unless you have the real evidence. That's the best I can say with that. Yes, Chris.
Okay. Mark did have 3 questions embedded in his chat, so I know we're going to continue on.
Okay. What we have to do, you must understand I know you've got so many questions, and here I am, and get me while you've got me, so to speak. But we do have so many people trying to get their questions. So if you could ask your first question, and then if there's time at the end and we say, okay, send in your next questions, we can certainly deal with the second one, and possibly even a third one if we have the time. But Chris, I think, asking one question first, and then if people want to have a go at their second question when we say they can, or if there's time that they can, then they just need to just put it back in again. Yes.
Okay. Ravi is on.
Who?
Ravi.
Ravi, good morning, Ravi.
Hi, Rosemary and Gray Eagle. Lovely to see you. Hope you are doing good, Rosemary. In my office, my boss has given me an option, either to be an individual contributor and work on complex research projects, or manage teams. I am unable to understand which options to choose. Could you please ask Gray Eagle to guide me here? What should I pick?
Well, here's the question I'm going to throw back at you, Ravi. Are you a people person? And if you are, and you like working with people, and you like seeing the interactions with people, and you like acting yourself, taking action yourself, which I actually think you do, then the second option, and heading teams and being involved and so on, is the way that you should go. If you prefer to just sort of bury yourself away and not work with people and not be, so active or take such an active not take such an active involvement, then obviously your forte should be to go bury yourself in a dungeon somewhere. No, I'm just kidding, not really dungeon, perhaps a library somewhere, and go do your research. It might be fun for a while, but if you're a people person, which I suspect you are, it's going to get bored pretty quickly. Chris.
Betta is on.
Morning.
Dear Rosemary, it's 2 years that our family has been facing a lot of adversity in every field. Could you ask Gray Eagle if he sees the end of this negative period, and when will it happen, sooner or later?
Well, Betta, I do feel for you, and there are so many people that in your situation. I will say I'm listening to Gray Eagle, and I think that you talked about 2 years of negativity, but I'm told that there have been a lot of moments of joy within that 2 years, and I'd like you to focus on the positive rather than on the negative if you can. And I know how difficult this is. I know that it's hard. It's a very hard thing for you to do. I know that. I'm aware of that. But the more you focus on the negativity, the more you create negative energy around you. I do feel that it's hard for you in a way, because I think that there is Greg is saying that there are two someones within your life situation, within your family maybe, who do tend towards the negative and the downside of life. And so, so they are, by the very nature of their being, they're creating negative. And unless you can sort of pull yourself out of that, it's going to keep going until you decide enough, go positive. I'm going to suggest you make an ambition board. If you want to know more about that, we can talk about that at another time. We have talked about it before. Make an ambition board and make sure that you put your ambition board somewhere where you can see it every single day. What will happen is eventually you'll stop seeing it, but your subconscious will see it every day, and you'll be driven towards making things better. Be careful of the ambitions that you choose. You can choose 3 or 4 maximum ambitions that you put in the middle of the board. Make your beautiful bright patterns around the edges, make a border, and just put it somewhere where you see it. Even if it's in the bathroom, the back of the bathroom door or somewhere, just put it up somewhere every day so that you can see and focus, and your subconscious can see and focus on what it is that you want from your life. Okay, Chris.
Christine is asking.
Good morning, Christine.
Is my son Andrew finally at peace, and does he come to visit me?
Well, as you're saying this to me, Christine, someone to my left side here is chuckling. I'm not quite sure what you mean about at peace, because this young man has no intention of sitting on a cloud and playing the violin. He doesn't want to be at peace. He wants to learn. He wants to explore. He wants to do all of the things that are out there for him to learn and to do. I think your question you probably mean more, is he content where he is? And he's very exuberant, very, very, has a fabulous personality. He is going to explore the universe. He is going to live his life like he couldn't live it before, he tells me. So I didn't expect this, but anyway, here he is, and he's chattering away. I thought that Gregor was going to be talking for him, but he's chattering away to me. And why are you asking if he visits you? Because you know perfectly well that he does. You just got to trust in yourself and trust in him. I hope you understand all that I've said to you, my darling. Chris, let's have our next question.
All right, I want to give you the heads up that it's just about 12 o'clock.
How can it be that? How can it
I
be?
know.
We just started here. All right.
Yeah.
So let's do some quick fires if we can then.
All right. Cheryl says, hello, Rosemary. As always, another outstanding story.
Good morning.
My question is, I am 67. Will I ever be able to stand up for myself?
Well, will you? What is the name of this lady again?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Oh boy, if I was there, if I was sitting with you, I'd give you a good shaking. You can do it. Stand up for yourself. Say what is. Stop trying to please everybody else. You know, if you can't do it at 67, you can't do it at all. I know I said quick fire, but I'm going to remind, because I think Cheryl, do you know the poem, When I Am an Old Lady? When I am an old lady, I will wear purple. Or I will, and then she proceeds to list all the things that she's going to do when she gets to be an old lady. She's going to sit on the curb, and she's going to pinch flowers from next door neighbours' gardens. She's going to take a walking stick and run it on the railings as loud as she can. Please look for that poem. When I'm an old lady, I will wear purple. But when I read that poem, and I think somewhere in the poem it says this too, why wait till I'm an old lady? I determined many years ago that, I want to be an eccentric old lady. Well, I am an old lady now, according to my grandson, but I'm not as old as a lot of old ladies, he says. But when I'm an old lady, I decided I want to be one of those really eccentric, fun ladies, right? So if I'm going to do that, it needs practice. I've required practice. So I've been practicing since I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and lots of people think I'm an eccentric, and I love every minute of it. Get a grip. You can do it. Be eccentric. One more, Chris.
Annalisa.
Good morning, Annalisa.
Miss Altea, I wrote you a very long message tonight, maybe too long. For some reason, it was never sent to you by the system. Maybe it was destiny. I lost all my long count of grief and pain. How to make a heavy soul lighter.
I think we've answered that. I don't know how old you are. You're probably just a little thing. Read when I am an old lady, I will wear purple. Come on, everybody. Come on, do it. Darling, I did not get your message, but there's no reason why you can't send it to me again. Email me. All of you out there, email me, Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com. We'll do our very best to answer your emails. Don't panic if you don't get an answer within a couple of weeks. But after a couple of weeks, if you haven't got an answer, just send it again. We're a small office. Poor Michelle just about manages to get through all of the emails. So don't think that we've forgotten you. Don't be mean and say you never answered my email, because guess what? We can only do what we can do in the time that we have it. But be patient with us, because we will answer all of your emails, and we will, I promise you, get back to you. Right, I'm going to suggest hold the date, the 24th of October, because we are having our first webinar. We're going to be putting it up fairly soon now. You'll know how much it's going to cost, and you'll know, we're going to try and do it I think on a Saturday morning, right, Chris?
Yes.
And we're going to be advertising that. We're going to be telling you all about what it is we're going to be doing. Mediumship might be the topic. You just never know. Can you talk to people in the spirit world yourselves, or do you need a medium? What kinds of things would you need to do in order to connect with your loved ones in the spirit world? How can you tell the difference between what is real and what is not real? and on and on and on it goes. But we'll be letting you have all of those details. The 24th of October, save the date, Saturday morning probably. And we're in the process of actually booking the dates right now, so we can pretty much say, keeping our fingers crossed, unless something, you know, unless the internet crashes on that day, we'll be there. So again, please email us, rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com, if you want to put your name down for the webinars. By all means, say that in your email. If you'd like to have healing, let me know, because we send out healing every day to our whole list of patients. If you want to know more about my books, or if you want to know how can I get a consultation with you, Rosemary, well, email me and ask me, and we'll let you know, and we can book you in. What else is there, Chris? I mean, the guided meditations that we have that are out there, you can find those on iTunes and all of those. Shutterfly or what, I don't know what it's called anyway. All of those places out there that you can get these things from. So is that it, Chris? Have I covered it all?
I think we want to say, if you enjoyed this live show, share, share, share.
Oh, absolutely we do. If you could share, that would be fantastic, because the more people who know that we're doing this, the more we get to do, the more that we're allowed to do, because there are certain limits and limitations that, you know, these things that we do. We're on Restream at the moment, but there are certain limitations. So the more of you that are out there who share, and the more who know about us, the more we can actually do to keep going and to keep connecting with you. I do thank you all so very, very much for joining us this morning. We shall be back on Thursday morning with, with The Spirit World Sees All, and boy, does it ever. And that will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 11 a.m. New York time, 4 p.m. British time, and all of the rest of you, I so appreciate. You're going to have to work it out for your own countries, because I can't do it. But we'll be back on Thursday in the meantime. And of course, we'll be back next Saturday with, I think we'll try for a really fun and joyful story. I've got to dig deep now. But I'm going to find you a story that you're going to absolutely love. That'll be next Saturday. I'd like to say thank you very much, Chris, for all that you do for us, and we really appreciate your time. And of course, I'd like to say thank you to Grey Eagle, who is always here with me, and helping and guiding. And so I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Please, 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 hope to see you next week. In the meantime, have a fabulous, wonderful, blessed rest of the day. And please, everyone, have a very, very blessed and a wonderful weekend.